Hi, my name is Pam Spur. I'm a registered nurse and functional nutrition coach, and I've been working with Dr. Samar and her clients for a number of years. And I'd like to welcome you all to the class entitled GI Foundations: Heal Your Gut, Heal Your Body. This is one of my favorite topics because if you start to learn how to heal your gut, you're going to have the ability to treat, manage, and even reverse many of the common and often chronic conditions that patients see the doctor for. Patients see their doctor for common reasons like fatigue, stomach problems, hormonal issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, and all of these reasons may seem disconnected. But when we see the doctor, we want to know what the cause of the symptoms or diseases are because we want to feel better. And that's probably why many of you are here today. Our current healthcare model is not designed to get to the cause of these issues, and the approach of trying to manage these conditions with more and more prescription medications is clearly not working. So if we go back to when we were learning about biology and all the different systems in the body, we learned about the circulatory system, the digestive system, the nervous system, and so on. We learned about them as though they were separate systems, as if they had a life of their own, not connected to each other, and this parallels how things have evolved in medicine as well. Our body parts have been divided up into 40 specialties and 87 subspecialties now currently recognized by the American Board of Medical Specialties. We have a doctor for the neurological system. We have an orthopedist for our skeletal system and a cardiologist for our circulatory system. Many of you have likely seen a number of these specialists by now. However, many of us also understand intuitively that within the body, all of these systems are interconnected. And in functional medicine, we know that there is a system that connects all of these other systems that we just talked about, and that system is the gastrointestinal system. When we begin to understand the importance of the GI system and how it connects all of these other symptoms together, we have the ability to fix the entire body by addressing that very important GI system. Most of you have likely heard the quote from Hippocrates that says, "All disease begins in the gut." Every system in the body is impacted by the health of the gut. It's impossible to address health issues such as asthma, allergies, autoimmune diseases of all kinds, mental health issues, fatigue, cancer, migraines, eczema, autism, and many others without considering the health of this system. So when we look at our diseases, we recognize that we want to flip that arrow. We want to be less focused on disease and symptoms and more focused on root causes. And the GI system, we'll find, is at the root cause of so many conditions that you might be seeking treatment for. Let's explore this further. First, we have to understand how we fail our bodies and specifically harm the GI system. We know that sometimes we eat the wrong foods. The standard American diet contains literally thousands of chemicals, including food additives, colorings, flavorings, pesticides, and food packaging materials, many of which have never been thoroughly tested for safety. Added to that are other ingredients that are not helpful for our GI system, like hydrogenated vegetable oils, genetically modified foods, and excessive amounts of sugar, unhealthy fats, and salt found in processed foods. These food-like substances can be perceived by the immune system as invaders or foreign substances our body does not recognize, turning on inflammation as our immune system tries to protect us. We may develop food allergies and food sensitivities. In addition to harming the GI system by eating the wrong foods, we can also cause damage by overeating and by eating too fast. Every system has its limits, and we need to understand how to treat this system for our bodies to heal and function optimally. In order to get optimal health out of the entire body, we have to learn how to optimize the health of the GI system. There are 4 pillars of GI health that define the gastrointestinal system that we're going to focus on today, and those are digestion, elimination, microflora balance, and gut integrity. Everybody thinks about digestion and elimination when talking about the GI system, but we also want to remember that in the gut, there are many places where good bacteria and other microbes live, known as the gut microbiome. According to the microbiologist Kiran Krishnan, we have 100 trillion or so bacterial cells that live in and on our body, and 10 trillion that are human. So 90% of what we are is not human. It's bacteria and other microbes. Humans actually have between 20,000 and 25,000 functional genes, about half of that as a rice plant. So how is it that we can do so much more than a rice plant can do? Well, many scientists believe the answer is the microbiome, which performs a variety of beneficial functions for our health. Some estimates are that more than 90% of our metabolic function comes from bacterial DNA. These organisms also play a role in our digestion, inflammation, detoxification, vitamin production, neurotransmitter and hormone production, as well as helping to educate and train the immune system. We want to be sure that we help those beneficial bacteria and keep them there in the right amounts. We also need to understand that the lining of our entire digestive system, our entire GI system, is also very important to the entire functioning of the body. Just as the skin on the outside of our body protects us, the skin that lines everything from our mouths to our rectums is very important in terms of defending us. According to Professor Lloyd Meyer, in a single day, the gastrointestinal tract has to make more decisions than the rest of the body's immune system makes in its lifetime. So to optimize the health of the GI system, one thing you have to consider is your genetics. But more important than your genetics, you have to know that you have the power to improve and maintain the health of this system by modifying your diet and lifestyle, because these are the factors that impact how our genes will express themselves. So how do you achieve this? Let's look at how you maintain these 4 pillars in a little more detail. There's a system that we use in functional medicine we call the 4 R's of GI health. We've actually expanded that to 5 R's, but for the purpose of this group visit, we'll focus on these 4. We understand that we need to remove, our first R, the things that can be harmful to our system. Things like allergens, which may be found in certain foods and in toxins. This is where an elimination diet comes in, as well as other practices to support detoxification and regular bowel movements. In addition to removing allergens and toxins, we also want to remove harmful organisms that may be damaging the system. This requires stool testing to determine what pathogens might be present. We also have to replace things you might have lost, things like stomach acid and digestive enzymes. We also recognize that we need to re-inoculate, which means replacing the good bacteria with things like probiotics and fermented foods, which contain high amounts of beneficial bacteria to put back what the system needs to function properly. And last but not least, we need to repair. Many times when we eat the wrong foods or have issues that affect the gut lining, we need to repair it so that it is strong and can defend us against the environment outside. So let's take a closer look at how we digest and process food, because it's not just a simple matter of getting food in and getting it out. Digesting food follows a specific process, so let's take a look at what happens when you eat a carrot. You start by chewing, and don't underestimate the importance of chewing. Saliva contains enzymes that aid in digestion, which we complicate by eating on the run and gulping down our food. Once chewed, the carrot starts changing shape. When it gets in the stomach, the food gets mixed with stomach acid and other digestive secretions to form chyme. The chyme moves into the small intestine where specific digestive enzymes are secreted by the pancreas, helping to process that carrot even further. Finally, the food is ready for inspection by the lining of the small intestine after it has gone through these multiple digestive processes. The pink cells that you see here are called enterocytes, which make up the intestinal epithelium that lines the intestinal tract. This lining is 1 cell thick, and when healthy, the cells stand shoulder to shoulder, forming one of our body's barrier systems designed to protect us. And this makes sense when you think about it, because eating food is the main way that we interact with the outside environment on a daily basis, other than breathing. On top of these cells, you see the little finger-like projections known as villi and microvilli, which increase the surface area of the intestinal walls, increasing the area for nutrient absorption. These enterocytes are foundational for your GI health and are critical for your overall health because they determine what enters the body or what gets kept out. At this point, the food is still in the digestive tract and has not yet entered the body via the bloodstream. When we look at this further, we see that there is a perfect pathway designed to get it there. We talked about how food has to change shape so it's ready for inspection. When it passes inspection, it gets a VI pass, travels through the enterocytes, and turns into a different shape. Let's just say that shape is a heart, which has now entered the bloodstream. The digested food particle has now entered the body. See the green circles with the plus sign? That's our symbol for the immune system, and at least 70% of our immune system lies right there in our gut lining. It's there to be able to detect any intruders that might make it there for that small intestinal lining to inspect. In this example, only hearts are coming through, which the immune system is happy with. It's as if the immune system is saying, these hearts are good for us. We know they've been through the right security system and are okay to travel through the rest of the body. Now we know that all systems are there to protect us, but not all systems are foolproof. So let's look at what can happen. When we take medications like antibiotics, steroids, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs like ibuprofen, aspirin, birth control pills, and acid-blocking drugs, or eat harmful foods, ingest harmful microbes or toxins, experience emotional and psychological stress, have gut infections, or go through chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery, we know that all of these things can damage the microbiome in the gut lining. The ability of the cells lining the intestinal tract to stand shoulder to shoulder is determined by the microbes that live above it. Between these cells are what is known as tight gap junctions. Normally, these tight junctions only allow the smallest particles of food, that microscopic nutrition from the process of digestion, to cross the intestinal barrier and get into the bloodstream. In this example, the probiotic layer or microbiome has been diminished or damaged by the things we just talked about in the previous slide, and it's become a little patchy. The cells become dysfunctional, no longer able to stand shoulder to shoulder. Zonulin is a small protein that wedges itself between those junctions, causing them to open further, now allowing undigested food, foreign substances, and chemical structures not properly broken down to get into the bloodstream. The integrity of our gut lining has now become compromised, and instead of having tight junctions like a brick and mortar system on a new building, we have larger gaps between the cells, like bricks that are separating on an old building. Can you visualize that? When you lose those tight junctions, you're losing the integrity of that protective barrier. Now what happens? Well, remember that star? That star can pass through one of those gaps, but it doesn't turn into a heart like in the previous example. The immune system, trained to expect simple sugars, simple amino acids, and fatty acids, or hearts, now has to deal with partially digested food that it can no longer recognize, as well as other toxins or unfriendly microbes that may have also leaked through those gaps. An interesting note about gluten I would like to add here is that it is one substance known to increase the production of the protein zonulin, increasing intestinal permeability. And studies have shown that this happens to everyone, regardless of their sensitivity to gluten. Alessio Fasano, MD, world-renowned pediatric gastroenterologist, calls zonulin the biological door to inflammation, autoimmunity, and cancer. When undigested food, toxins, or unfriendly microbes begin to leak through the tight junctions and get into the body via the bloodstream, The immune system becomes activated and becomes inflamed. Now the system is in a mode of defense and it's not in a mode of healing anymore. When we look at this process in a more complex diagram, functional medicine practitioners look at all the things that can fall through or affect those gaps. We call this condition increased intestinal permeability, sometimes known as leaky gut. With this condition, we know that this protective barrier is no longer intact and things are leaking through. Now the immune system has the potential to be very overwhelmed. It can become weak and distracted because there's so many things coming into the body that are not supposed to be there. This can lead the immune system to tagging certain foods as intruders, even though they aren't really harmful at the beginning of the process, but now the immune system has been distracted and is tagged it as a food allergy, sensitivity, or intolerance. And this can go on, causing more inflammation that can lead to autoimmune conditions because the immune system is overwhelmed and distracted. Now, what else happens? We know that when all this commotion is happening at the level of the GI lining, it affects all the other functions of the GI system as well. But now these components have entered the bloodstream, traveling throughout your whole body, activating the immune system and creating alarm signals everywhere. The immune system, designed to protect us, launches an attack on these new invaders, creating antibodies that flood your body with inflammatory chemicals and can lead to the development of systemic chronic inflammation, what we now know to be the root cause of most chronic illness. And this is where we get to the title of the class today: Heal Your Gut, Heal Your Body. If you can stop inflammation down at the core of your GI system, you have the ability to fix all inflammation-related diseases in some way. We know that these diseases and conditions are all connected to this core concept. As all these diseases, cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, autoimmune disease, pulmonary diseases, and others have a root in inflammation and therefore a root in your gut or your GI system. So let's use an analogy to further demonstrate this concept. Let's suppose that you've been given a beautiful Lamborghini. You'd probably think something along the lines of, "This is a wonderful piece of machinery. I need to take really good care of it." Now think of this car as your body. If you had this expensive state-of-the-art piece of machinery, I'll bet you would want to take very good care of it and make sure that it got the exact fuel needed to perform at its best. You likely wouldn't go to any old gas station and fill it with the cheapest gas. Also, you probably wouldn't fill it with the wrong fuel, something like water. Even though water is good for many things, you would probably know that putting water down the gas tank of your Lamborghini would not be a wise idea for the performance of your car and could also be harmful. Well, guess what? Foods are no different. There are many healthy foods, common foods like wheat and dairy, that can be the wrong fuel for you. Just because they're considered healthy by the public in general, they may be the wrong foods for you, for your Lamborghini. Let's look at that a little further. You probably already know someone, or maybe yourself, that feels better when they take a certain food out of their diet. Again, wheat and dairy are common allergenic foods, and when we remove those allergenic foods, we might notice a huge improvement, not just in our digestive system, but also with symptoms such as brain fog, headaches, muscle and joint pain, mood issues such as depression and anxiety, asthma, sinus congestion, skin issues, insomnia, or fatigue, just to name a few. We know that removing foods from the diet that can be triggers for your disease or symptoms can make a big difference. So remember, not all food is the enemy, but there are foods that can be tagged by the immune system as the enemy. And when it does, we call that an adverse reaction to food. Another way of saying that you're having a negative response to the food. Even though you may like the food, your body is talking to you, letting you know this food is causing your negative reaction. And there are many types of adverse reactions, which are known as food allergy, a sensitivity, or an intolerance. These reactions are a lot like the military if you think about it. The immune system is there to fight the enemy, but like the military, it has a different branch to handle different types of enemies. This can be one way of understanding the different types of adverse reactions to food. One of the most common ones you might know about, one of the most severe, is that related to peanuts. You might have a child or know a child that has such an extreme adverse reaction where they experience anaphylaxis, but most of us do not have those extreme reactions. Those types of reactions to food are known as a food allergy. Typically, what most people experience is something much more common, non-anaphylactic food reactions. Whether they're a sensitivity or an intolerance, they make up 95% of food reactions. These reactions cause symptoms that are a little bit trickier because they can be delayed for days or hours. So you don't see the connection as you would as you swallowed a peanut and your lips begin to swell up immediately. These symptoms can be very vague as well, vague to you until you identify the connection. They can be as obvious as hives, eczema, or difficulty breathing. They can also be as vague as headaches, fatigue, brain fog, or joint pain. The list of these symptoms is too much to fit on one page, but you can see things like depression, anxiety, psoriasis, migraines. All of these symptoms can be linked back to an adverse reaction to food and can be linked back to the health of your GI system. Figuring out if you have one of these food triggers can take a little time. Your goal is to identify and reduce those triggers coming into your system to reduce that incoming garbage that is triggering inflammation. Your physician might decide to do some testing and give you some extra support in the process to help you figure this out. Some physicians may use skin prick or intradermal testing, or may even order some lab tests. Another thing they might request of you to do is a stool test. Some of the most common things that your physician may find necessary to recommend is an elimination diet. And we love elimination diets because they're simple and very effective. In fact, many practitioners view an elimination diet as the gold standard for determining what foods may be triggers for you. An elimination diet helps you identify certain foods that could be triggers by eliminating them from your diet 100%, but just for 2 to 4 weeks. This can be extended longer in some cases, but most commonly we recommend 4 weeks. When you eliminate those particular triggers, your body might feel so much better, your symptoms and diseases might start to reverse or lessen, and some of your medications might not be as necessary anymore. When you've removed a food from your diet for 4 weeks, it allows the immune system time to calm down its inflammatory response to that food. After the elimination trial, we'll teach you how to provoke a reaction by introducing that food back into the diet. If that symptom, let's say it's a headache, comes back with a vengeance when you reintroduce a particular food, for example, dairy, you know that that food is a trigger for you. So an elimination diet is a very effective way to help you identify your particular food triggers and start cleaning up the GI system as well. The 6 most common foods that can cause symptoms in the whole body by affecting the GI system include eggs, dairy, nuts, shellfish, soy, and wheat or gluten, which is also found in rye and barley. But the list can be expanded. So whatever you eat more of has the potential to leak into the body and trigger the immune system. The list can go on based on what you eat the most. One of the little pearls that we have is that if you crave a certain food, it might just be a food that your body is reacting to. So we want to eliminate those bad foods, which helps to reduce our inflammation, and most commonly, we use an elimination diet and support to do that. There's another thing you're probably thinking about, which is, I wonder what happens when I identify that. What happens to all the garbage that I've created in this lifetime while I've been eating those foods, such as gluten or dairy or soy, and not realizing it was causing my issues? How can I get that out? Well, that brings us to another one of the pillars of the digestive system, and that is elimination. When we think about elimination, we have to consider other body systems and not just the colon. Remember, elimination is a big umbrella, and it means taking out all the allergens, toxins, and harmful organisms, which involves the colon, the liver, the kidneys, and the skin. We bring in toxins through our digestive system, the respiratory tract, and the skin. We also make toxins within the body from various physiological processes that produce metabolic waste products. Whatever the origin, the body has to get rid of compounds that are toxic. And one of the main ways we do this is by having regular bowel movements. If the digestive system is not functioning properly, undigested food from previous stages of digestion can move into the colon. And if the colon is not functioning properly, like in a person who has issues with constipation, food can actually linger and rot there. Proteins decay, fats become rancid and oxidize, and carbohydrates begin to ferment, creating sugars that feed the harmful bacteria, yeast, which contributes to dysbiosis, which is a state of microbial imbalance in the gut. Ideally, the indigestible waste products from the foods we eat pass out of the body with the bowel movement, which should be happening 1 to 3 times a day. If you're not having regular bowel movements, toxins accumulate in the colon and are released back into the bloodstream to be reabsorbed by our body, creating further stress as the body tries to work them out. In the words of one of the leading functional nutritionists in the country and my teacher, Andrea Nakayama, the elimination of undigested food is as important as the digestion and assimilation of food. Constipation is only one of the many areas of digestion that we can help you with. Our bodies recognize that making garbage is inevitable, just like in our homes, but the goal is not to make so much and provide support to the systems that take the garbage out. Your liver is a very important tool in the body in terms of getting the garbage out. It works as a blood filter. It actually acts as a security guard. When your food, toxins, or microbes go through those enterocytes that line the intestine, leaving the digestive tract and entering the body via the bloodstream, the next destination is the liver. That's because the liver acts as a security guard, and one of its main functions is to filter the blood. Once in the liver, compounds are either detoxified, broken down, or purified before they're released back into the bloodstream to be carried to the cells to use or to be eliminated. Another important function of the liver is to make and secrete bile, which is a substance that helps us break down and absorb fats. The liver is also home to phase 1 and phase 2 conjugation, helping us detoxify and eliminate toxins from our system. So remember, be good to your liver, your colon, your kidneys, and your skin, because these are part of your body's waste disposal systems, and you want to take care of them so that they can take care of you. There are many things that we do on a daily basis that help support the body's detoxification efforts. You can minimize toxic exposures from food, water, personal care, and cleaning products. You can maximize routes of excretion by staying well hydrated, since water is essential for the kidneys, liver, and intestines to remove waste from the body, digest food, and prevent constipation. Eating enough fiber and exercising will also support your body's waste management systems. Your liver loves greens of all kinds, especially the more bitter ones, which can be added to soups, salads, and smoothies. Taking Epsom salt baths brings more magnesium into your system, which enhances the body's glutathione conjugation pathways, one of the liver's phase 2 detoxification pathways. You also want to get adequate sleep, as we know now that the brain has an immune lymphatic system that helps the brain detoxify while we're sleeping. And you want to skip the late night snacks, since your liver goes through a regenerative cycle between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. If your body is busy digesting food at this time, it disrupts your sleep and the detoxification process. We've provided a couple handouts, 10 tips to champion your liver, as well as 10 tips to drink more water. So take the time to look at those for some additional ideas on how to support your body. What else can you do? You can consider eating less. Some cultures advocate eating until you are about 80% full, like the Okinawan people. Interestingly, they also have some of the lowest rates of heart disease, cancer, and strokes, and have one of the longest life expectancies of any culture on the planet. When you overeat, it taxes the digestive system, affecting the rate of digestion. It also requires the body to expend a lot of energy, adds stress to the system, and forces the body to try and use too many nutrients at one time. Another thing that you can do that is critically important is to eat with mindfulness. Slow down, savor and enjoy your food. Put your fork down between bites and thoroughly chew your food. And avoid multitasking like reading, watching TV, or being on the computer. You're less likely to overeat when you're not distracted. And remember to eat when you're hungry, not when you're tired, bored, sad, or mad, or when you see a billboard with a delicious looking burger on it. You want to eat when your body says it's hungry. It's also important to eat when you're in a relaxed state, not when you're stressed, anxious, or rushed, because your body is not able to focus on digestion in those states. And when it comes to any health issue, the importance of managing your stress can never be understated. Stress affects everything. So use whatever stress management techniques work for you, whether that's exercise, yoga, meditation, or deep abdominal breathing. Whatever helps you, the important thing is to use that tool on a regular basis. You also want to make sure that you're eating clean food, preferably organic. You want to be eating whole, real foods that come from the earth. According to Michael Pollan, these are foods your great-grandmother would recognize as food. If you gave a bright fluorescent orange Cheeto to your great-grandmother, she would most likely find herself wondering what to do with it. You want to eliminate the highly processed foods, and if processed, only minimally so, like a can of beans or sardines that have a simple ingredient list. You want to be eating a wide variety of plant foods that contain a rainbow of colors for their antioxidant and phytonutrient support, foods like vegetables, fruits, beans, and grains if tolerated. It's also important to avoid those foods that you've been found to be triggers for you. It might be wheat or dairy or any other known trigger. You want to avoid it so you can protect your gut lining so it can help protect you. There are also many ways to support the beneficial bacteria in your gut, the probiotics, which depend on what you feed them. Whole, fresh, real food helps the beneficial bacteria to thrive. Eating prebiotic foods, those foods that are fiber rich that the probiotics like to eat and grow on, like onions, garlic, bananas, and legumes, is also beneficial. Eating fermented foods and foods that are high in polyphenols and resistant starch all support a healthy microbiome as well. Intermittent fasting is known to increase the diversity of the gut microbiome, something we do every day between dinner and breakfast. Increasing the diversity of the diet and getting a dog are also things that help to support a diverse microbiome. Feeding the bacteria junk food helps the bacteria that are not so beneficial to dominate, which leads to dysbiosis, an imbalance of the protective and harmful bacteria that can damage the gut lining and contribute to intestinal permeability and inflammation. And since at least 70% of our immune system is in the gut, improving gut health improves the health of the immune system as well. All of these tools to support digestion in the microbiome also help support healing intestinal permeability, as will bone broth, collagen, and gelatin. We've also included an ebook titled Feed My Microbiome that provides more detailed information about ways to support a healthy and diverse microbiome. Another way to support your body is by eating an anti-inflammatory diet. And since we're almost through with this presentation, and I haven't mentioned it yet, you need to know that the 3 most inflammatory foods in the standard American diet are gluten, sugar, and dairy. That's right, those foods we all grew up with, loved, and are so prolific in the diet. These foods may taste yummy. After all, the food industry pays scientists lots of money to be sure that you can't eat just one. But these foods are sabotaging our health and the health of our children due to the inflammation that they cause, which consistently distracts the immune system from doing what it's designed to do, which is to protect you. Another way you can help yourself is to eat healthy fats. You want to prioritize getting good fats into your diet by eating fish such as salmon and sardines, flaxseed, chia seeds, nuts and seeds of all types, olive oil, coconut oil, avocados, and avocado oil. You want to avoid bad fats such as those found in highly processed vegetable oils and trans fats that are hydrogenated like margarine. These unhealthy fats are abundant in baked goods, processed food, and fast food. And you want to avoid fried foods because the fats are oxidized from the high heat and they're chemically altered, which makes them harder for our bodies to recognize and very difficult to digest. The waste from unhealthy fats and fried foods can build up in the colon and affect the ability of the colon to do its job efficiently. One diet that's been proven to have these wonderful fats and plants in it to help your whole body reduce inflammation is the Mediterranean diet. We provided another handout as well that will give you some other ideas to assist with digestion, and that's 10 tips to improve digestion. So do take the time to review that one. And one last piece of advice, consider what your grandmother might have told you. Eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, and dinner like a pauper. When you do, you may notice that you will be leaner in your midsection, trimmer, and have more muscle, less fat, and more energy. And if you do just the opposite, like many of us do, skipping breakfast, eating a big meal at lunch, and then having an even bigger dinner, relaxing by the TV, and going to bed, you may notice the excess weight tends to travel toward that middle zone. And we know that when you eat the right quality and quantity of food and time it appropriately, you can attain better health. One of the things clients frequently talk about is not having time for breakfast, or they don't know what to eat because they have to eliminate foods that they may be used to consuming at breakfast, like wheat, dairy, or eggs. One idea to help you manage this morning meal is to make a healthy smoothie so that you can have one meal easily and quickly taken care of. Looking through the lens of functional medicine, you may now understand that saying much better, no guts, no glory. Digestion is the biggest stress we put on our system every day. If the body is already stressed, anything we can do to improve digestive function will ease this system so more of our body's energy can be focused on healing. So please understand, the world is round, and the place which may seem like the end may also be the beginning. You've come here for a reason. You're looking for a better way, a way to support healing, not just another Band-Aid. Our goal for every client is to educate, inspire, and empower you to engage and fully participate in your own healing to create the life that you deserve. We really appreciate you joining us for this class. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you. Bye.